Let's try this again. I'm having some settings issues where I guess the last stream I did, there was no audio. Every time I muted the microphone, the audio on the computer cut out, which I didn't think it would do that. But if I let the audio play through my speakers, then what happens? Then the microphone picks it up and then I get echo. So now I've got a headphone into what is, I guess, my computer speakers. I have a Bose system with a control knob here, and I got that hooked into microphone. So that should be fine. I'm just going to get on YouTube right quick to make sure that's coming through fine. And we'll probably get some echo in a little bit. So let's try this again. Okay, let's try this again. Coming through on the phone. Okay, coming through on the phone. Okay, I think I was hearing echo from the phone. All right, now let's add in the video and see what happens. And I don't know if it's maybe the different way I've share system audio. I didn't see that. So what does that do? Uh-oh. Okay, let's not click that and see what happens. Because if I click no, entire screen, Chrome tab, share tab audio. Okay, maybe that's what the problem was. So let's try this again. Sorry, just trying to figure this out. So if I put this on the stream, change the view a little bit, and I hit play, you should still be able to hear me and hear this video come through. So let's try it.
Moving to Wasilla or the Matsu Valley in general, you're probably trying to decide for yourself what are the pros and cons, what's kind of the negatives of living in
Microphone
Wasilla.
test.
Well, my name is Jamin Gurker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska with Keller Williams, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family. And so today I decided to make a video just kind of laying out what's kind of the dark side of living in Wasilla.
All right. So I paused it. Okay, I think we're okay now. I have it set. I think we got it set where we can watch the video and you can hear me. I guess if I just don't talk, then that's fine. But I wonder if the sounds come through this one too. I don't know. Okay, now I can barely hear myself talk. All right, let's try this again. Hopefully you can hear and see everything okay. If you're watching, say hi in the chat. We're just trying to figure this out here. So let's talk about, I guess, living in Alaska a little bit. So I live in Wasilla, Alaska. We've been in Alaska 15 years, and I wanted to let's show this video I had shown earlier, but I screwed up the settings and you couldn't hear anything. So let's watch this video here about kind of living in Wasilla, the dark side of living in Wasilla. I don't know if I would say that, but let's see.
You're probably trying to decide for yourself what are the pros and cons, what's kind of the negatives of living in Wasilla. Well, my name is Jamin Gurker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska with Keller Williams, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family. And so today I decided to make a video just kind of laying out what's kind of the dark side of living in Wasilla. Before we get started though, do make sure you give this video a like, do subscribe if you haven't done so already, and let's go and jump into today's video. Now the first thing I'm going to say is I have never personally lived in Wasilla. I have lots of family that lives out in the Matsu Valley. I do buy, sell quite a few properties out there in that area, and I might actually be making a move out to Wasilla in a couple months here, just depending on how my investment journey goes. But from my experience of talking with all my friends and everyone that's lived out there, and talking with past clients that have bought and sold properties in that area too, these are going to be kind of the dark side aspects of living in Wasilla. Obviously the upside is going to be The lifestyle is great out there. You've got mountains surrounding you all the way around, much more so than what you would have in Anchorage, where you can actually get out and go do stuff. Less restrictions. The cost of living is going to be much lower. Housing is going to be a lot more affordable, and it's going to be newer. Average age of a property built or property sold in Anchorage is, I think, 1981. It's 2001. It's probably gotten newer since the last time I checked, too, over in the Matsu Valley.
So yeah, that's correct. So the home that we've been out here, 12 years? We're in a subdivision kind of just off the Palmer-Wasilla Highway, kind of right before the city limits of Wasilla. And that was the reason we moved out here. Anchorage is not much more room for growth out there, and homes a lot more expensive. So we have a half-acre kind of corner lot with a home on it. When we purchased a home, I mean, it's a little bit more expensive than what we would want, but it's raised in value over the years to like another 100 plus 100,000. So yeah, it is expensive. You can buy more home, have a little bit more space out here, at least in Wasilla. All right, so let's continue watching and find out some of the dark sides of living in Wasilla.
So the properties are going to be a lot newer out there too, a lot more updated. So that's really nice. And like I said, it's just got much more of kind of a small town feel to it, depending on what area that you're in. But there are definitely some downsides to it, and I'm just going to give you I'm just going to shoot straight with you and give you kind of the negatives of what I've seen. Now, the first dark side of living in Wasilla is that there is, like anywhere else, there's going to be some crime and there's going to be drug use. I'm not going to tell you specific areas or tell you stay away from a certain area or move to a certain area because of this. That is your decision. So the best thing I can tell you, make sure you go take a look at the crime map for whatever area it is that you're considering moving into to make sure you're very comfortable with whatever is going on in that area.
All right, so let's talk about crime. So yes, there's crime. Crime everywhere you go, crime in Wasilla, drug use, probably like most states. Yeah, there's certain areas of Wasilla that tend to be a little bit more in the outskirts, where the crime happens. There is a lot of theft, and apparently there's some places you can go to purchase all these stolen items. I don't know. I just hear rumors. I try to kind of not get involved in that stuff. And the subdivision we live in, it's pretty safe. We have troopers living out here. We have Anchorage police officers also living out here. So I have not heard of anyone, robbing anything from our neighborhood. And I know there's reports of, suspicious people maybe casing the area. I'm not sure. But in terms of, crime, it's out here. I mean, there's murders, there's rapes, there's, your typical crimes that you're going to have, unfortunately, in other states. And, it just seems maybe sometimes more, it's more frequent happening because we're a little bit more tighter. It's kind of populations are packed into certain areas. So I don't know. Like I said, I've seen, people shooting up in the bathrooms. Sometimes you see that, and do what you got to do. Report to the police, to the manager of the place or whatever. But yeah, I mean, crime is here, and a lot of it depends on, where you live too and how secure you live. And sometimes it's just no choice. You do the best you can, but people figure out a way to get your stuff. So.
We'll also say, to be completely fair, make sure you take a look at the crime map for the area that you currently live in, because more often than not, we've done this exercise.
He just talks about there's crime everywhere. Here in Alaska, we can carry, we have open carry laws. You can carry concealed without a permit. I would be very cautious of trying to rob somebody in Alaska, or especially breaking into their home when they're home. I carry a weapon when I go out, and a lot of people are carrying weapons. So you really got to be careful about getting into something with somebody publicly. You never know who's carrying, who's not, and it could end not well. So just food for thought.
Size, and people take a look at a specific place in Alaska, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's terrible." Then they look at where they're at, and they're like, "Oh, that's even worse. Like, that's way worse than what you guys got over there." Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying now. So make sure you take a look at the crime map, you're comfortable, and you take a look at the crime map for the place you're currently in, so you can kind of get a frame of reference for what it is that you're looking at. Second kind of dark side of living in Wasilla is really the wind. And the wind is definitely something you have to kind of be ready for if you're moving in from out of state and you're not really aware of the topography of the area. But with the way the mountains are set up, like the Matsu Valley kind of turns into a wind tunnel at certain times of the year. And usually it's just, really gusty.
Yeah, so he's talking about the wind. So yes, the wind out here. So they call it the Matsu Valley, the Matanuska-Susitna Valley. I think those are rivers. And the wind, yeah, it's horrible. Last January, he'll go on to talk about it, but last January we had a really bad windstorm that basically hurricane winds. We lost shingles. Every year we tend to have windstorms. They get pretty aggressive, but this last one lasted a couple days. Took out buildings, took out power. People pipes burst because it's winter and it was really cold and windy. We were fortunate. We lost power one night. I had one pipe freeze, but I was able to get it unthawed, but it didn't burst. So we got pretty fortunate there. In town, the KFC and A&W had their wall blown off. And so they just got that open a few months ago. The courthouse in Palmer got really bad. A lot of pipes broke. And that's really what happened is people lost power, couldn't keep warm, and a lot of pipes broke. And I think it was cars in Palmer. It looked like it was like a frozen waterfall in the entryway. It was just water. It was pouring out and freezing. It was horrible. We lost a bunch of shingles. We usually lose shingles every year. This one we lost a lot of shingles. We had some roof repair done. A lot of people had roof repair. Water damage. I know coworkers had, family water damage is really bad. So yeah, the winds, you really got to watch for the winds out here in the valley. And it depends where particularly you live in the valley. Where we live just as you come into Wasilla and you can see the mountains and the wind just rips through there. A lot of people you see new neighbors moving in and they set up their trampolines over the first summer that they're here, and by winter they're gone. We've had plenty of trampolines traveling down the road. It's just the wind. Fences can get blown down, can get pretty aggressive. Like I said, last year it was really bad. We got a lot of really horrible wind. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Out there, and there'll be a couple days where you have to hustle to your car a little bit faster, but sometimes you can get some pretty fast winds in there. This past January, I'm gonna go look up some pictures that are available online, but they had a big windstorm that went through there, and it was pretty devastating for some folks. Really, the concern there was that people would lose their power, and it's in the middle of winter, so that's not great. But by and large, the wind is not really destructive. It's gusty, and that's just something you have to be aware of. Another really big dark side aspect for Wasilla, at least for me personally, is that their main road, like going through town, is usually pretty congested. They have this one intersection around KGB and the highway where it just gets really congested in there, and the roads are like really pocketed, and because they can't really do a whole lot of maintenance on those roads just because they are so busy. And so if you're trying to drive through Wasilla, like everything kind of just grinds to a halt right here in this area, depending on the time of day. And especially along KGB, the road, a lot of people are going to be driving, up and down those roads. Unfortunately, it's only a 2-lane road along there, and I think the speed limit's right around 45, 55 miles per hour. And there's lots of turnoffs because there's a lot of development going on in that area, and there's lots of turnoffs. So when people, slow down to make that turn, like you kind of just have to hope everyone behind you is paying attention. They're not looking at their phones instead of paying attention to the road.
So yes, he's right about that. So the main road that comes through Wasilla, I guess Palmer Wasilla, 4-lane highway mainly. It kind of carries through most of, I think all of Wasilla heading out towards Big Lake in Houston. So the area he's talking about is Connect Goose Bay Road. It's KGB. Yeah, it's just off of the Palmer Wasilla Highway. There's a lot of development out there, and a lot of road construction. A lot of people travel that road to just get to and from homes to different communities and shopping. And it's not the best road. Currently they're doing construction on it to kind of make it wider. And I think he goes into talking about some of the issues with that. So yeah, it's pretty congested town. in terms of roads too. I mean, the Wasilla kind of blew up pretty quick, and I don't think the road system can really handle it. And there's just some goofy ways that you have to get to places. At least for me, I don't like some of the shopping centers just seem to be in a large parking lot, and so you have to drive through kind of a parking lot to get to different shops, and people aren't the best drivers, and issues and stuff. So there's things just to keep in mind there. So yeah, it can get kind of congested. A lot of people live in Wasilla and they drive to Anchorage and they commute in the morning. So 6 to 8 o'clock, you see lines of cars going into Anchorage, and then 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, you got lines of cars coming out back home through Wasilla and heading out to Big Lake and Houston. And yeah, it's pretty much kind of bumper to bumper traffic for a few hours. And once that clears, then you're kind of back to normal traffic. But yeah, it can be very annoying.
That can definitely be a problem. And there's definitely a lot of accidents that do happen out there in that area. And that's why they're actually going to be broadening that road and making it a 4-lane road. So 2 lanes going in either direction. So that's really going to make the KGB road a lot safer. Let's take a break here real quick. For those of you who are considering moving to Alaska, you doubtlessly have a ton of questions about what it's like actually living up here. The YouTube channel provides you a lot of great information. I also have a relocation guide, and be happy to email that over. Recently they moved up, or they've lived up here for years and years, and they have kind of an old-timer's perspective. So do make sure you go take advantage of that. So it's not just me telling you, talking about the road construction a little bit. And now another thing is developing area. A lot of folks, some people built their houses a little closer to these thoroughfare roads. Really not thinking about 10, 20 years that they would be broadening those roads out. And eminent domain does come into effect at that point. And you can try to fight it and overturn like 150 years worth of precedent. Good luck. You're probably better off just, taking the compensation they give you for the property and either deciding to sell it, depending on how much of a septic system they take, if they take any of it, or just taking it, being okay with the way things are. So that's definitely one dark side. If you are looking at buying a property up here, that's always something I recommend people. Hey, think like in the future, is this going to be enough of a thoroughfare where they're going to broaden this road if this property is close to the road? So that's always something that I do recommend you kind of just think through your mind. Specifically, KGB Road, like I mentioned before, is really the one that's going to be again broadened out in the near future. Last but not least, the kind of dark side to this whole Wasilla as well, kind of dark side, negative side, is that there's really not a whole lot of like really good city planning that went into Wasilla. We had a certain individual, Sarah Palin, not sure if you guys have heard of her before, but she was actually the mayor of Wasilla for a while. And when she was in there, big explosion of development, really started taking off in that area. So that's all fine and good. There's good positives there, but the downside to it was that they just kind of approved everybody who was asking to do stuff. There wasn't really a good sense of city planning and kind of the zoning there, and for that reason you'll start to see houses and like properties next to each other that really don't make a whole lot of sense. Likewise, there's this mechanic shop in the middle of this area, and around it it's like completely different properties. So zoning can be a little goofy. And there, on the further north you go, the more pronounced this becomes. Once you start get further out into Big Lake, you'll really start seeing what I'm talking about. But you do see that in Wasilla as well. So these are going to be kind of your things that are kind of.
Yeah. So there you go. So yeah, the last thing he's talking about there is, it seems like not much city planning at all was happening in Wasilla, and things just kind of pop up. There's subdivisions all over the place. Another dark side of, I don't want to call it dark side, but it's really not convenient, is there really is horrible public transportation in Wasilla, in the Matsu Valley in general. It's horrible. There really isn't a public bus system. I think there's a bus that drives around, and I'm really not sure how it works. I know people do cabs. I think there's a couple Uber, maybe Lyft cars around, it really stinks. I mean, in terms of public transportation, it's horrible. It really is horrible compared to Anchorage, where they kind of have, a metropolis city there. They've got city buses and things that kind of go around Anchorage. But out here in Wasilla, the public transportation's horrible. Yeah. Overall, it's really not bad. I mean, just living in Alaska in general, if you got a lot of family down, the lower 48 or outside is what locals will say, they're the lower outside means outside Alaska. I haven't traveled outside of Alaska in a long time, and you kind of get stuck in things. Wasilla's got plenty of shops, stores, restaurants. All the kind of modern stuff you can think of. Newer homes. It's the place where you're probably gonna have newer homes. Anyway, so yeah, it's not that bad. Winters can be long, and we have a very short summer. If you're lucky, we get 3 months of what we would call summer. You make a lot of plans, and the summer comes and goes, and that's kind of that. The winters get long. They're just long. There's sometimes in July, if you head up in the mountains, there's still going to be snow up there and a mess. And so usually May, June, July, August, September, now it's going to start chilling down. By October, usually you kind of use Halloween as some benchmark of how cold it is and snow. And like right now, where I live, just have a couple inches of kind of come and gone, and a few more snows here and there. We're currently in a pretty cold snap right now. It's what I think, the high is 10, the low is going to be -2. And it's kind of been like that for, I think, most of this past week. So not that bad. We have a nice house. Yeah, heating bills, it's expensive up here, like most places are currently right now, but Alaska seems to be a little bit more expensive. So I'm just going to end it there, and hopefully all the settings work. You can hear the video or what have you. And just thank you to this YouTube channel that I pulled up, and this guy talking a little bit about Wasilla. Obviously, I think he's a realtor. So anyways, you can check him out. Please subscribe if you are watching this. We really would appreciate it. Just kind of help us out as we get going here. Eventually, my wife and I will be doing more stuff together. So, all right, I'm going to leave it at there. Thank you. Again, please like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff that you typically do with YouTube. It really would help us out. So, all right, thank you.